Welcome to today's video. Today, I want to share with you my top 3 supplements that I think almost every single person on earth should be taking. We're going to start this list off with a good one. The first supplement is Shilajit. Now, if you already know what this is, you know this is quite an interesting supplement. If you've never heard of it before, then you really want to. Shilajit is this black tarry-like substance that has this very unique and very odd and peculiar taste and smell. It's basically a mineral secretion that exudes from the earth. Now, I know that sounds absolutely delightful and delicious, but maybe I can win you over by sharing some of the benefits of consuming Shilajit. So first of all, you can see improvements in energy and stamina. I don't know a single person on earth that doesn't want more energy. There are many different mechanisms as to how it does this, but we'll go over those in a minute. For now, I just want to sell you on the benefit. Second are the benefits to cognitive health. It can enhance memory, focus, and learning ability. And it's also believed to protect us from Alzheimer's disease. For the men out there, this can give you a really nice testosterone boost. And it's been shown to improve libido and sexual health for both men and women. It also supports immunity by boosting the immune system and has many antioxidant properties, so it can help to fight inflammation. Probably one of my favorite benefits overall are the improvements in nutrient absorption. So not only is Shilajit really high in a lot of the trace minerals that we're actually missing in our modern diet due to over-farming and the use of pesticides, namely things like glyphosate that are mineral chelators. So they bind to these trace minerals and lock them in the soil so we can't actually get them in the foods that we eat. Shilajit actually works like a multi-mineral supplement, so it gives you all these trace minerals that you're missing. It's also really high in humic and fulvic acid, which improve the absorption of the nutrients in here and also of other substances in other foods that you might eat. Something that I found really interesting about Shilajit is it's actually been used for thousands of years. This isn't a new supplement. This is something that's been used in a type of medicine called Ayurvedic medicine, and it's one of the substances that actually works for almost everything. It's a universally beneficial substance. One of the categories that it fits into in Ayurvedic medicine is as a rasayana, which is a regenerator. So this means it promotes vitality, strength, and longevity. So how do you go about getting a good Shilajit supplement? It is really tricky because there are a lot of sort of fake Shilajit products. So you want to make sure you're going with one that has a lot of good positive reviews, one that's been really tested by lots of people. I think the best way to do it is to actually take it as the tar-like resin. There are some supplements where you can get it as a powder or you can get it in capsules, but I really think the less processed and the more natural, the better. It's also really interesting because you can take this tar-like resin, you could dissolve it in water and you'll take a very tiny, like half a pea-sized amount, and you'll dissolve it in almost half a liter of water and it will just turn it all black. And it's really cool to watch it happen. If you really strongly dislike the taste, you can mix it in with juice or like lemon water first thing in the morning. That's a really nice way to do it. But I personally kind of like the taste. It's a bit weird. It's really unique. There's nothing I've ever had that tastes like Shilajit. But because it's so dense in minerals, if you're exposing yourself to it frequently, you'll get to a point where you almost crave it. When your body needs a little bit extra, you'll feel like you just really, really want it. You want that taste. You want that flavor. And that's a really good indicator that your body's craving more of those minerals that are in it. So this is really nice to take all the time. I think traditionally it's recommended to use it for a period of time and then take a small break and then use it again so that you can sort of amplify the benefits. But the way that I would generally encourage somebody to use it is buy one bottle of the product and take it until you finish it. Because if you've never taken it before, your minerals are probably depleted. Your body probably really needs some nourishment. And from there, don't buy any more until you feel like it's missing. And then as soon as you feel like you're craving it, just buy another bottle and do exactly the same thing. It can be really nice to kind of keep on hand. If you get a cold or a flu or you're feeling a bit depleted, your energy is low, your vitality is low, it can be really nice to sort of like perk you back up. It's kind of like, imagine what coffee can do for you, how coffee kind of can re-energize you and revitalize you, even if you're feeling a bit tired or hungover or not so great. And then all of a sudden you've got all this energy. It's like this, but in a more natural way. And you're actually nourishing the body, giving it what it needs to make energy instead of kind of tricking it into this false sense of energy like you do with coffee. So the only real caution with this supplement is make sure that you get it from a good source. I'll put one just here and I'll put one just here and you can take a look at these. We've also got a supplement list that you'll be able to find in the description, but make sure you get a reputable one. You don't have to get one of these two, but just make sure you do your own research and find a good product. The next supplement that I think almost everybody should be taking is creatine. So creatine is a very natural compound. It's in almost all the food you eat, especially animal products. It's made of 3 amino acids, arginine, glycine, and methionine. And one of the most important things it does is that it plays a crucial role in energy production by helping us to regenerate ATP. There are also some really other sort of niche uses and interesting mechanisms, some connected to methylation, some really interesting stuff I'm going to share with you in a minute. But first, let me sell you on the benefits. So the first benefit, and this is for any weightlifters, bodybuilders, or anyone that's performing athletically that wants better performance, these are for you. So the first benefit is that it increases acute muscle strength and power. So this has been documented in boosting performance in weightlifting, sprinting, and any other type of high intensity sport or exertion. It also enhances muscle contractions, which enables heavier lifts and faster sprints. So when you're looking at like the top level of performance, it helps you push just a little bit further, which if you're into weightlifting or training or anything, you know that's where all the muscle gains are really felt. So if you can do anything to push yourself into that end range a little bit more, you're going to get a far better return on your investment with regards to the amount of energy and time that you invest into doing the exercise or training. You're going to get more out of it. Not only that, second benefit, it promotes muscle growth. So creatine stimulates muscle protein synthesis and cell hydration. This means that not only do you gain more muscle, but you recover faster as well, which means you can then get back to training again. There's also a nice aesthetic benefit in that it increases your muscle volume. It really hydrates your muscle cells. So you can literally increase the volume of your muscles, basically meaning like you look way more muscular, literally just from taking creatine. Now, I know these benefits are really nice if we've got like any meatheads or muscle builders or people that are really into training or exercise, but there are lots of other benefits that are non-exercise related. So I really want to emphasize these because this isn't just a supplement for people that are training. And I know that's really how creatine is kind of marketed and pushed. And you'll see most people that are doing training may be using creatine already, but there are lots of non-exercise benefits. So I really want to emphasize these for you here. So the first of these non-exercise benefits are that it boosts brain function. Creatine has been shown to boost cognitive performance, focus, mental clarity, and you kind of see a parallel with what we were talking about with the training earlier. It's when we're doing very small but intense, high-focus tasks. So this is going to improve your ability to adapt and respond under pressure. If you have to make really important decisions in a very short time frame, if you're dealing with a lot of stress, it's going to help you to be more resilient in that stress. It's also shown some neuroprotective benefits and can help to protect you against things like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. One of the biggest benefits that I've seen, this actually helps to reduce fatigue and improve just overall energy. And if you think about the things we've already looked at and through the mechanisms that this is working, this kind of makes a lot of sense. But imagine combining benefits of creatine with Shilajit. Can you just imagine the synergy here? It's incredible. The next benefit is that it helps you age better. So taking creatine can really help to protect muscle mass loss as we age. So I don't know if you know this, but very interesting fact for you. Muscle mass on the body is one of the best indicators of overall health, and it's one of the best ways that we can protect ourselves from literally just about all different types of disease. And this even includes things like neurodegenerative disorders like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. You can really see this. There is a very strong correlation between people's total muscle mass and the likelihood of them developing some type of neurodegenerative disease. But also, if we can hold muscle mass as we age, we're able to stay more mobile, we're able to walk, we're able to pick things up, we're able to lift things, we're able to reach up and take things down from a cupboard. And these things are really important. What isn't talked about enough is the fact that as we age, what tends to happen, what tends to kind of like reduce people's quality of life or reduce the length of their life overall is they will have some kind of trip or fall. You know, they'll fall over and break a bone or they'll break their hip. And this massive reduction in their quality of life and their mobility kind of becomes the beginning of the end. And this is very preventable if we can keep the muscle mass high. Finally, creatine is also believed to improve glucose uptake into muscles. This is really good for improving performance, but this also is really helpful if you have insulin resistance or PCOS. So if you struggle with blood sugar imbalances or insulin resistance is a part of your picture, creatine could be really helpful there as well. And anything that you can do, regardless of whether you have insulin resistance or PCOS or not, anything you can do to reduce your blood glucose spikes and your insulin spikes is going to help you to age better. It's going to help to reduce inflammation. It's supporting a healthy metabolic function of your body. So how do we get all of these benefits? How do we practically apply creatine supplementation? So there are some people that will push things to the extreme. You know, they'll be looking at 20 grams of creatine a day in a loading phase, build themselves up, and then 5 grams a day from then on. That's actually not how I would do it. Instead, I would start slow and build it up. I'd start at 0.5 gram and increase by 0.5 gram every couple of days until you're able to reach 3 grams. If you're just an average person, if you're not doing any extreme training, or if you're going to the gym maybe once a week, 3 grams a day is probably enough. Just to give you some context, you'd have to eat between 10 and 20 kilograms of meat to get this much creatine. So this is a lot of creatine. Just because the fitness standard is taking 5 grams a day doesn't mean you actually have to take 5 grams a day to get 80 to 90% of the benefits. One of the negatives of creatine is that it can put extra load on your kidneys. So I'm all about trying to find the optimal ratio between the benefit and the harm. And I found that generally at 3 grams a day, you're getting the majority of the benefits and you're minimizing any of the risks. Although I will say, creatine Creatine is one of the most well-researched supplements, and its safety and efficacy is probably higher than any other thing that has ever been researched on Earth. So do with that knowledge what you will. If you are somebody that's training excessively, if you're an endurance athlete, if you're doing weightlifting or bodybuilding and you're training 5 times a week, probably 5 grams a day might be helpful for you. So there's definitely a case for it, but that's probably not for everyone. It's also really important when you take creatine that you take it with a good amount of water. This is because the creatine will increase the amount of water in your cells. So you need to make sure that you have water there to do that. Otherwise you will become dehydrated. And also you can mitigate many of those potentially negative kidney risks by making sure that you are well hydrated. So I would usually encourage you to drink according to your thirst. However, when you do take your dose of creatine, you probably would need to drink a little bit more water than maybe you feel thirsty. There are lots of really good brands of creatine. It's very easy to find a good creatine supplement. All you want to do is look for something that is creatine monohydrate. That should be the only ingredient. There are lots of other kind of like niche and trendy extra supplements that will cost you a little bit more money and claim to have extra benefits. But really, I think creatine monohydrate is the best form. It's the cheapest form. It's the most studied and researched form. I really think it's pretty hard to beat. So just go with a good creatine monohydrate and just make sure that's the only ingredient in there. Now I've got a little bonus benefit for you. So I mentioned methylation just a while back. One of the really interesting things that I learned was that creatine is a methylation end product. So in our bodies, we use between 30 and 50% of our methyl donors to create creatine. So if you're somebody that has MTHFR or any of the MTR or MTRR mutation, if you're someone that has benefited from taking methylated folate, methylated B12, SAMe, or any of these other methyl donor substances, there's a really good likelihood that you might benefit from taking creatine. Because although creatine itself isn't a methyl donor, we use the majority of our methyl donors to make creatine. So if we provide the body with creatine exogenously by taking it as a supplement, the amount of methyl donors and resources that our body has to allocate to creatine production can come all the way down to 0, and it can reallocate all of those methyl donors to doing all of the other methylation jobs. So it's a little bit of a niche info piece, but super interesting, super helpful, and also tends to be even well tolerated by people that don't do well with additional methyl donors. So even if you believe you're an over methylator, this could still be worth a try. So that's 2 out of 3 complete. We've got Shilajit and we've got creatine. Do you have any guesses what the third one's going to be? If you've been watching my channel, if you've seen at least 5 of my videos, you should know what this is going to be. So if you have watched at least 5 of my videos or I want you to leave me a guess, because it's really not that hard to guess what number 3 is going to be. So I'll give you just a couple of seconds just to write your comment, but come on, entertain me, play the game. You know, I read through all of the comments, so I'm really interested. It'll be really nice for me to see how well you know me by now. So come on, what's number 3 going to be? Surprise, surprise, number 3 is probiotics. I don't know how you wouldn't know this, but probiotics are the beneficial organisms that reside inside our digestive system. They work with us. They have lived inside of us just as long as we've existed. We literally can't live without them. If you take a mouse and you sterilize his gut flora, he will die. We need these bugs in our gut. They are essential. They're basically, in a way, they're like an organ. So just as your liver does certain functions and your heart does certain functions and your spleen and your kidneys do certain functions, your microbiome does essential functions. And if your microbiome is imbalanced, if you don't have the correct organisms, those functions don't happen and you will not be healthy as a consequence. So again, let me sell you on the benefit. Now, this first one, you really don't have to be a genius to figure this out, but surprise, surprise, probiotics can improve your digestive health. So if you're experiencing any type of digestive problem whatsoever, there's a really good likelihood that your microbiome is imbalanced. And one of the best ways we can influence what's going on in your microbiome is with probiotics. They can be really helpful to replenish beneficial bacteria. If you've had anything that has been acutely disruptive to the microbiome, like an acute toxin exposure, like antibiotics, like taking anesthesia, anything like this. Even doing things like laxatives long-term or endoscopy prep, or even just eating a diet that isn't 100% organic. There are lots of pesticides and things which have antibiotic effects in the digestive system. So even just living in the modern world with overuse of antibiotics, modern medications, chemicals in the agriculture and food supply, all of these things are disrupting your gut flora. So if you've got any type of digestive complaint, diagnosed or undiagnosed, there's a really good likelihood probiotics could be of some benefit to you. Secondly, and this one is just incredible, probiotics can strengthen your immune system. So I think it's a pretty well known 70 to 80% of your immune system is found in your gut. And this is one of those sort of jobs that I was explaining that your microbiome does for you. If you don't have a strong, healthy microbiome, your immune system is going to suck. So if you're someone that can't get sick, or if you're someone that gets sick all of the time, there's a really good likelihood that your microbiome is out of balance. Not only do the beneficial organisms crowd out harmful bacteria and viruses and actually like occupy this space so that other not so friendly organisms don't inhabit us, but they can actually actively produce compounds that kill these things. So they can produce themselves substances like hydrogen peroxide, which they can use to kill dysbiotic organisms, pathogenic yeast, viruses, colds and flus. But more than that, they work with our immune system. So they can modulate and they can stimulate the mucosal lining of the digestive tract to produce things like immunoglobulins, So they're basically working with the body to signal to it, to communicate with it, to influence how it behaves. And just about every single person on earth that has some kind of immune dysfunction, they have a problem with their microbiome, they have a problem with their gut flora. What's going on in your gut also significantly influences your mood. And there are a couple of mechanisms by which this happens. First, we've got the production of beneficial substances. Again, just like an organ, your microbiome produces most of your neurotransmitters for you, including things like serotonin. So if you're missing the right bacteria, you're missing quite literally the organ that produces the neurotransmitter that makes you feel happy. Imagine what's going to happen if you don't have enough of the bacteria that produce these substances for you. You're not going to feel happy. And that's what depression looks like. So this is just one mechanism. There are plenty of others. Another that's really well documented is lipopolysaccharide or endotoxin. So this is a substance that can be produced by gram-negative bacteria. These could be potentially dysbiotic or pathogenic organisms that are in the gut. And when these are produced and when they enter the body in the bloodstream, they're extremely inflammatory. And if you take healthy mice and inject them with endotoxin, they will develop depressive-like behaviors immediately. And I think the funniest part about this whole thing is if you take a mouse that's been injected with endotoxin and you give him antidepressants, if you give him Prozac, if you give him some type of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, it has an antidepressant effect. So it's kind of funny. I just imagine these people like playing with all these mice, injecting them with poison so they feel inflamed and depressed, and giving them this little like antidepressant medication, and then them becoming like little happy mice and running around and playing again. But the way that we approach mental health, if we haven't looked in the gut first, it just makes absolutely no sense whatsoever to me. Also, your skin. Not only does the microbiome of the gut directly influence the microbiome of the skin, but most people that have skin problems have some kind of gut dysbiosis presentation going on. Then we've got metabolism and weight management. This one blew my mind. If you take two healthy mice, lots of mice in this video, but this is how we learn things, I suppose. If you take two mice, one that's very healthy and the other one that's kind of a bit chunky, is a bit fat, and you take the bacteria from the fat one and put it in the small one's gut, the small mice gets fat. And this is with exactly the same diet. They're in exactly the same environment. All you did was change their microbiome. It literally changes the body fat percentage, same amount of calories consumed. So if you're somebody that struggles to lose weight, or you struggle to gain weight, or whatever it is that's going on, weight just isn't where you want it to be, and you haven't looked at your gut and you're not working on this with some type of probiotic, you're probably missing a huge part of your puzzle. And that's probably why you're not getting the results that you want. And there are so many benefits. It's really hard to know where to stop when we're looking at probiotics and gut health, but I'm going to stop it on this final one, nutrient absorption. So every single nutrient that comes into your body goes through your gut. If your probiotic bacteria are missing, if your microbiome is dysbiotic, you're simply not going to be able to nourish yourself. So you can take your creatine, you can take your Shilajit. If your microbiome isn't healthy, you're not going to get all the benefits from these things because you're not going to absorb it properly. And that goes for these supplements that I've talked about today. This goes for everything. You can eat the healthiest diet on earth. If you can't digest and absorb it, it's completely useless. It's not helping you. So how do we work with probiotics? First of all, I'll say, if you can tolerate fermented foods, that's the way that I would go. You can do kefir. If you can eat kimchi and sauerkraut, that's the way to do it. That's the way that we've done it for the last 100,000 years. We didn't ferment food because we wanted to. We fermented food because we needed to. It was the only way that we could really preserve food over the winter months when it was absolutely freezing and nothing could grow. And one of the questions that I always get is, why do we have to take these supplements? We've existed on Earth for thousands of years. Why do we have to supplement all of a sudden? Well, first of all, we've eaten probiotics for thousands of years. We've had a microbiome since the beginning of humankind. Right now, we live in a modern world where we don't get as many of these probiotic organisms in our diet as we used to. We're very separated from our food supply. It's very rare that people are growing their own food and having exposure to these kinds of microbes. We would eat fermented food as a part of a yearly cycle, and that's very rarely happening. And as a consequence, we need a way to replace it. If you can do fermented foods, then great. And if you can't, probiotics are a really handy pill that you can use to just replace it. So that argument of, oh, why do I have to take a probiotic? We never used to have to take probiotics, actually doesn't work, because yes, we did. We used to take probiotics. And with the Shilajit, it's true, we used to just be able to get all of the nutrients that we needed from the food that we ate. But the soils are depleted. We've over-farmed and over-tilled and over-sprayed the soils, and we've depleted them of nutrients. So we just simply don't get these things in the food anymore. So we need to make sure we replace it. And if you don't, it's really hard for your body to function when it's missing the core vital nutrients that it needs to work. And the creatine. Well, I would argue that we've eaten meat for thousands of years, and probably our diets used to have much more meat in them than they do in our current modern age. So obviously, if you want, you could just eat a bunch more meat, but meat's pretty expensive. And I don't know if you've seen the cost of food recently, but it's probably the highest that it's ever been. And if you can get a huge amount of benefit just from taking a little creatine supplement. So if you want help with starting on probiotics, I would suggest that you check out our full comprehensive probiotic guide. It's a step-by-step guide that walks you through exactly how to get started with probiotics. This works for normal people just living a normal day-to-day life without any kind of overt chronic health problems. This works for extremely sensitive people. There are specific probiotics mentioned. There is a step-by-step guide for introduction. There's a step-by-step guide for how to work through these different types of probiotics. And there is lots of detail and notes for individuals that are extremely sensitive. And it also finishes up in what's next. Talks more about fermented foods, gut microbiome testing, and even prebiotic fibers. So if you have any interest in learning more about the gut, the microbiome, and how to utilize probiotics correctly, that's the video that I would suggest you watch. I cover it in far more detail than I can do in a little video here. But if you're short on time and you can't go and watch that video, this is the probiotic that I would suggest that you get started with. This is the delactate-free formula from Custom Probiotics. But if you're able to tolerate fermented food, that's definitely the way that I would go. So I'd be really interested to hear from you now. If you were going to add one honorary mention onto this list, one supplement that you think could have the largest benefit for the most amount of people, what would it be and why? And make sure you tell me why, because you might mention a supplement that I've heard of before, but you might know some sneaky little benefit about it that I'm not aware of. So let me know, what supplement would you add to this list and why? I'll leave a link in the description so that you can grab a copy of our supplement guide so you can get all of the products that I talked about today. And if you have any questions, you know what to do. Just leave me them below and I'll be sure to get back to you. So that's everything for me today. Take care. Hope you've enjoyed and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.